Hey, Sean, this is my favorite video that I make every year, and this is my biggest piece of advice, or like the biggest lesson that I've learned after running my business for the past year. To take a quick step back, December 16th, 2008 is when I registered boomreactive.com and like committed to running this creative business. And we started doing video and social media management, and it took us several years to learn that we didn't want to do anything with social media. We just wanted to do video. And so then we transitioned. And so I've been doing this. And every year I make this video, sort of what have I learned? And this year was a bigger one than I anticipated, because I've been doing this for 16 years. And you would think that I've learned how to do this, or that I've fallen into a routine and a path for success for creating videos. And in some ways I have, in many ways I have. But there were 3 lessons that I learned the hard way with 3 huge projects that all ended up overlapping. Not my design or choice, but they all ended up overlapping. 2 of them finished yesterday when I'm recording this. I'm recording this on the 13th. 2 of them finished on the 12th. And one is going to finish hopefully by the end of the month. But they're all happening right now, and I learned different lessons from all of them. But the big thing that I learned, I'll make separate videos about those 3 lessons, but the big thing that I learned over this past year, the 16th year of running my business, is to try to do stuff wrong. And it seems weird. And I think a lot of people would say, be okay with something going wrong. But what I've learned this year is don't just be okay with it, want it. Try to break stuff, to break your process, to break your creative vision. Try to fail. And through that, you start to learn things. And what illustrated this for me, there's a video that Veritasium made over 10 years ago. I think it was in February of 2014. Derek made this video about our confirmation bias, where once we have an idea, we tend to, without thinking about it, focus all of our work on trying to prove ourselves right instead of any work trying to prove ourselves wrong. And you can see this now with any theory and political nonsense you'd like to find, where somebody has an idea and then they work on finding evidence to support that idea without ever trying to find evidence that would disqualify that idea. And we do that in creativity. And what he does in this video, and I'm going to spoil the video for you, but you should still go watch it, because the way he edits the similarities in people's guesses is very neat. But his problem was this. He said to people, I'm going to give you 3 numbers, a sequence of 3 numbers. His numbers were 2, 4, 8. And he said, I want you to figure out my rule on what these patterns of numbers are. And you can only figure it out by guessing a sequence of 3 numbers. And he will say if it's right or if it's wrong, if it fits his rule or if it doesn't fit his rule. And after guessing, then you can guess what his rule is. And so what people do is they say, okay, 2, 4, 8, 4, 8, 16. And he says, yep, that fits my rule. And then they say, okay, what about 200, 400, 800? He says, yep, that fits my rule. And then people say, okay, well, it's numbers that double. He says, that's not my rule. And then they say, okay, well, hang on, what about 3, 6, 12? He says, yep, that fits my rule. And they're like, so it's doubling. What his rule ends up being, to spoil it, is just 3 ascending numbers. 1, 2, 3 would work. 100, 1 million, 1 billion would work. Any 3 numbers that ascend in order will fit his rule. And it's not that these patterns that people are guessing don't fit the rule, but a lot of people start to say like, yeah, well, I figured it out. And you do, without knowing more information, you are creating things that are satisfying his rule. But there's a lot more information there and a lot more things that could work that might be more efficient. And as I read this, I started thinking about, because I played along and was wrong. And I've done this to a couple of people since, as I've talked about this video and how much it has resonated with me. Everyone gets it wrong. And everyone just goes tunnel vision on trying to say, no, I think I know what it is, so I'm going to come up with another pattern that fits what I'm thinking. And see, it works. It works. And I don't care what your rule is. I'm doing it right. Whatever I'm doing, I've decided something that's right every time. And what we lose in that is the ability to find other ways of doing things that could be effective. And the biggest place I've noticed this is in my creative work is working on this kids show that we're working on. And I'm in the middle of editing episode 2. And as I edit it, The way we approached this episode was wildly different from the way we approached the first episode. And this one was much more dynamic, much more high energy, and a lot more documentary style, where we sort of knew like, hey, we're going to explore here and film it all, and then we'll find the story later. And what we had with our first episode was a pattern that worked. And we could have just done that again and again and again and again and had a show where everything kind of worked. But what we gain by going into it and saying, I don't know if this is the right path for this project, but with what our goal is with the longevity of this project, like we want to do, tons and tons and tons of episodes of our show, it makes sense to spend an episode trying to figure out how to do it wrong. And how people end up figuring out Derek's pattern is when people start to guess, well, what about 222? Does that fit? He says, no. It's like, what about -2, -4, -8? Does that fit? No. And so you start to learn, okay, but you could say 1, 2, 3, does that fit? Yes. 10, 20, 30, does that fit? Yes. And you start to learn more information about what would work. And it's that process, which is difficult to get to sometimes instinctively, but what it does for us as creatives is open up options to see what is really going to work. And by creating things that we think might fail, even if they do fail, we're going to learn so much from where they failed, because it's not just a yes or no, did this work, did this not work? But for example, with the kids show, the second episode, we shot completely using iPhones, and I'm about to make a bunch of videos about what went right and what went wrong there. But it's the kind of thing where if you'd asked me after the first episode, should we film this entirely on iPhones? I'd have said no, because we used a Red V-Raptor and some Sony cinema cameras to film the first episode, and that worked fine. Why would we change that? And I'm a video producer. I don't want to film stuff on phones. This is our big passion project. I don't want to put it on a phone. But we went for it. And we did an episode completely on iPhone, and what we learned surprised us. And we tried to break it. I wanted to look at this and be like, you know what? It's never going to work to do that again. But turns out it's going to work, and we're absolutely going to do it again. And for the foreseeable future, we will only film on iPhones, to my absolute shock. But we only learned that by doing it. We couldn't have learned it by like, oh, I filmed a little bit on my phone, and yeah, that's enough of a test. I think this will work. No, we had to go full send on iPhone production, and we learned that does fit the pattern of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. And so as I'm looking at my other projects, and these 3 projects that are finishing up that I'll talk about in other videos, it is making me re-examine my process of how I produce videos, and the documentary style that I've used for so long is bogging me down with editing, where preloading it with more pre-production and getting a different level of cooperation from my clients might set me up to create more stuff, better stuff, and faster. And that is something, as I look at being a producer for a lot longer, trying a couple videos that are scripted, even though I would think at first like, well, no, it's not going to be as authentic. It's not going to be as organic. I'm not going to have the same passionate sound bites. There's a way to do it that way, but I'd be a fool not to try it to see if I get it wrong. And if it's the kind of thing where I script a video and we film it and it flops, I learn a ton from that. And that's my big shift this year. I think for a long time I've been open to mistakes and failures and solving problems, but only now am I starting to realize, no, I need to go in and try to break this. Because if I do, I learn things. And if I don't break it, I learn even more. And it just inspires me to try even harder to break it. And so that's where I'm at. And after 16 years of running Boom Reactive this past year, that's what I've learned. Don't just be okay with being wrong. Try to be wrong. Try to fail, because whether or not you do fail, you're going to learn a ton from those attempts of trying to just stress test your patterns and your processes in some ways that you might not have tried if you weren't eagerly looking to fail and learn from it. That is all I got. Thank you so much for watching this. Thank you for watching any of these videos that I make. If you made it this far in the video, it means a ton to me. It is a true privilege to have an audience that is willing to listen to me for as long as some of you have listened to me. Have a great new year. Have a great day or night or whatever, wherever. See you later. Bye.